Anything you could ever want, dream for, ask for, believe for, or desire exists within the kingdom of heaven. And this kingdom is inherently within you, as Jesus said. He said the kingdom of heaven is within you. And then he says, if anyone tells you to look for this kingdom out there somewhere, over there, or up there, don't listen to them. Why? Because he says that this kingdom does not come with outward observation. And then he says the kingdom is within. And so I believe that this kingdom within that Jesus is talking about in the canonical gospels and even in the non-canonical gospels like the Gospel of Thomas is a state of consciousness, or not even a state of consciousness, but consciousness itself, pure consciousness. And fundamentally, pure consciousness is what we are, beyond the body, beyond the mind, beyond the ego, beyond space, and beyond time. So if we can learn how to transcend all of this, the ego, the body, the mind, space, and time, and we can go within to what we really are, who we really are, as pure consciousness, as one with God, then we can start to create our own reality and we can start to manifest our desires from this place, because then we can understand how manifestation works, how praying works, and how the subconscious mind works, okay? And so in this video, I'm going to lay out 5 steps that you can start to apply to your own life today through meditation. And meditation is simply the method, it's the modality that takes us from the headspace, the analytical thinking mind, into the heart space where we can start to enter into the kingdom of heaven, that state of consciousness within us, or pure consciousness within us that is beyond the ego, beyond the body, beyond the mind, beyond space, and beyond time. Okay, and so the first thing, step 1, is transcend the analytical mind. Now, when we start meditating, again, meditation is the method, it's what we are using to enter into this space, to enter into the heart space where we can start to create. Now, when we are in the early stages of meditation, the mind tends to be very active, and so we are typically in the alpha brainwave state. Or I'm sorry, we're in the beta brainwave state in the beginning. The alpha is the next state that we get into the longer we're in meditation. So we start out in beta. The mind is very active, and the voice in our heads is loud and distracting, and we have all these different distracting thoughts, and it can be hard to concentrate. It can be hard to get into that state of peace, that state of calmness that we're looking to experience, and that we're trying to experience in meditation. And so what happens is when we start the meditation, maybe we're 5 minutes into it, 10 minutes into it, 20 minutes into it, it can feel like we're just doing nothing. It can feel like we're wasting time. It can feel like, oh, I just spent 20 minutes trying to achieve this deep state of meditation, but I can't do it because my mind is so distracting. And, one of the things I've talked about in previous videos is that when I first started meditating, I had 2 major misconceptions about what meditation was all about. The first one was this idea of trying to control my thoughts. And so I thought that when I started meditating, I had to really control my thoughts, and I had to make sure that, that my thoughts were becoming less and less. And so I thought that I was the one in control, and I was the one that was going to bring me into these deeper meditative states. But like I mentioned in previous videos, you're not the one that's bringing yourself into these deeper meditative states. It's the deeper states of consciousness that you're looking to experience, that you're trying to experience, will bring you in. And so meditation is actually all about letting go. It's not about trying to be in control. It's about letting go of control. And the more you let go, the more the ego starts to dissipate, and the kingdom of heaven, source consciousness, God, whatever you want to call it, starts to bring you into the deeper states of consciousness and the deeper meditative states. And so it's not about controlling anything in meditation. It's not about controlling your thoughts. The more you try to control your thoughts when you're meditating, the more difficult it becomes, and then you get frustrated and you end up quitting. The second misconception I had was that meditation was about trying not to think. And so when I first started meditating, I was like, okay, I have to sit here and try not to think. And if you try not to think, then if you've ever tried this, you know that it's impossible. The more you try not to think, the more thoughts start to arise. And so this is exactly what happened for me. I would sit there and I would try not to think, and I would hear about all these different these teachers, these spiritual teachers who would teach on meditation, and they would talk about this state of no thought. And so I thought that, again, I had to control my thoughts and like consciously attain that state by trying to do something. But again, meditation is not about this. These were two misconceptions that I was believing in because I was taught this. But what I learned eventually, like I keep saying, is that meditation is not about controlling. It's not about trying to not think. It's simply about letting go. It's about awareness. And so I'm not trying to control my thoughts. I'm not trying not to think. I'm simply being. I'm simply being aware of my thoughts. And the more I'm aware of my thoughts, and I allow thoughts to come and go, just like clouds in the sky, that eventually that is what draws me into the deeper meditative states. That is what slows down my brain waves, where I'm going from beta into the alpha brainwave state. So awareness is key. You're not trying to control. You're not trying not to think. You're just simply watching your thoughts, just like you would watch clouds in the sky, or like you would watch something on a TV screen. You're detaching, you're realizing that I have thoughts, but I'm not my thoughts. I have feelings, but I'm not my feelings. And you're just letting them do their thing. You're letting them pass by. That's what's going on. This is the approach we have to have early on in meditation, because if not, we're going to get stuck on trying to control the thoughts and trying to not think. And we're going to be so distracted by all the different feelings and emotions and thoughts that are arising. And chances are, this is going to make us not want to meditate anymore. And like I said, we're going to feel like, oh, I wasted 20 minutes of my day. I wasted 30 minutes of my day just sitting here doing nothing. Nothing happened. And then after, of course, you feel like sometimes you feel worse than before. If you try to meditate for 20 or 30 minutes and you're sitting there trying to deal with your distracting thoughts, by the end of that time period, you can feel worse than how you started. And so you're trying to experience peace, or whatever it is you're trying to experience in meditation, and at the end of your meditation, not only do you not feel that, but you feel even worse. So this again typically happens when we have these preconceived notions, these misconceptions about meditation. And so I'm here to tell you that those two things that I struggled with, as far as trying to control my thoughts and trying not to think, are misconceptions. That is not what meditation is about. It's normal to have distracting thoughts. It's normal for the mind to be really active in the beginning of meditation. And the key with this is simply to let the mind do its thing. Don't try to control it. Sit back, relax, and just be aware and watch your thoughts. Now, there are a few different things you can do in the beginning, or I would say either as a warm-up or in the first 10 to 15 minutes of your meditation, that will help you slow down your brain waves. It's going to help you go from beta to alpha and then eventually into theta. And some of those things are breath work. So there's many different breath work techniques that will definitely slow your brain waves down and help you get into deeper meditative states. And then there's also something that I started using. This was something that I noticed this before I got into meditation, but I noticed that when I listened to certain songs, certain music, I could feel my whole being start to relax, and I could feel myself getting into more of a state of calmness. And I could feel myself sinking down into my heart space, and I was feeling more present, and I was experiencing certain emotions, and I just felt more connected. This was happening when I would listen to certain songs, like I said, and a lot of these songs, it wasn't necessarily the words of these songs. It was just the energy of the song, the vibrational frequency of the song, or something about it that was touching my heart, and again, bringing me into my heart space. And this is key. So I would say that if there is a certain song or a certain artist or a certain kind of music that just makes you feel good, that makes you feel peaceful, and maybe certain emotions arise when you listen to a particular song or whatever it is, then I would encourage you to do that even before you start meditating as a warm-up to slow down your brain waves and to get you into more of the heart space. Because if you're entering into meditation, if you're starting meditation already in the heart space, then it's going to be a lot easier to get into the deeper meditative states. It's going to be a lot easier to slow your brain waves down if you're starting from being in the heart space as opposed to starting in the beta brainwave state, in the analytical thinking mind where you're all fixated on the past and the future, and you're worried and you've got anxiety and stress and all this different stuff. If you can find something like music as a way to calm yourself down, as a way to get into your heart space before you even start meditating, this is going to be key, and this is going to really help you. Another thing you can do is simply read. So sometimes, reading poetry or something that, again, brings you into your heart space is another great way to warm up before the meditation, to prepare yourself and to start, getting into your heart space before you try to start getting into these deeper meditative states. Another thing I'm thinking of is simply like listening to one of your favorite spiritual teachers. I know for myself, there's something about certain teachers that when I'm listening to them, when I hear their voice, I don't know if it's the energy or what's going on, but something about them, their presence and what they're saying brings me into more of a calm state, and I start to feel peace, I start to feel love, I start to feel connected. I'm out of the analytical thinking mind, I'm in my heart space, and so I'm starting to feel my emotions. I'm starting to feel these different emotions that are just arising, that are connected with certain thoughts, and this is starting to create harmony in my body, in my mind, and I can feel the shift happening. So these are just some suggestions from the very beginning that can help you quiet the mind, still the mind before you get into the actual meditation. Or there's even been times in my life where I started listening to a song, I could feel like it was bringing me into the heart space, and then I kept listening to that song or songs like that, or just whatever was playing at the time. And the music would turn into my primary object, and I've talked about this as a meditation technique in other videos. But the primary object is simply something that you focus the mind on. You focus your awareness on one thing, and when you do this, all the other distracting thoughts around that one thing start to fade away. Because here's the thing about the mind has to be focused in on one thing. If the mind is not focused in on one thing, then it's going to be scattering all around, focusing on all these other things, and it's got to be dialed in on one thing. And so that's the primary object technique. You find one thing, and it can be a song, it can be a feeling, it can be something like a verse or a poem that you're reading over and over and over again. It can be a candle flame, it can be a mantra. It can be so many different things, and this is something else that I like saying when I talk about meditation. Meditation is something that is unique to you. You got to find what works best for you. It's not a one size fits all, and so what might work for one person may not work for the other. And so you've got to try different things, experiment, especially with these primary objects. But for me, like I was saying, music has been a cool primary object that, again, I start the meditation even before the meditation as a warm-up. I'm getting into my heart space with the song, with the vibrational frequency of the music, and then that's carrying into the meditation, the beginning of the meditation, and then I just keep listening to that song until it's time to stop listening, when I start to enter into that deeper stillness. But the music in and of itself is acting as the primary object. And so, okay, step one is transcending the analytical thinking mind that's always fixated on the past and the future. It's always judging, it's always analyzing, and it's like this continuous mental stream of chatter. It's the egoic mind, the voice in our heads. We're transcending that. How do we do that? I just explained it. There's different ways, there's different methods: breath work, music, primary object technique, and everything else I shared, okay? Now, step two is entering into the theta brainwave state. And so when we start, we're in the beta brainwave state, and then we go into alpha. And when we're in alpha, we're going to start to feel calmer. We're going to start to feel this peace start to arise. The mind is starting to become quiet. and we just feel overall relaxed. And this is happening typically in the first 15 to 20 minutes of the meditation. So this can be while we're still listening to that song, or while we're still, thinking about that poem and doing our breath work. This is in the beginning. We're going from beta to alpha. The next step is entering into theta. Now, theta is when we start to enter into this state where the brain waves are becoming even more slower than what they were in alpha. And so what happens here is that the body is almost asleep. The body is very, very relaxed, but the mind is still awake. And so we're still aware, but like I said, the body is pretty much asleep. And in this state, it's almost like a hypnotic state, where it is a hypnotic state. We're very suggestible to these new ideas, new thoughts, new beliefs. And so this is the time to start visualizing and thinking about whatever it is we're wanting to eventually manifest. This is actually where it all starts, in the theta brainwave state. And so when we're in theta, the best thing we can do is just simply start to realize that this is where the subconscious mind is reprogrammed. And so the subconscious mind is very powerful, and it's actually running our lives. It's not the conscious mind, it's the subconscious. And what we are experiencing most of the time in our external reality is just a projection of the subconscious mind. And so that's why, like the mirror principle teaches, that the outer world is a reflection of the inner world. If you want to change the outer, you have to change the inner. How do we change the inner? By reprogramming the subconscious mind. And this starts to happen when we are in theta. And so once we're in theta, now it's time for step 3, which is to envision your desires as past memories. Now, what do I mean by this? Well, this is the law of assumption that Neville Goddard talks about. So you're assuming that whatever it is that you're wanting to experience is already done, as if it's already happened. And there's different techniques for this, but something that I have been practicing that has worked really well for me is while I'm in theta, while I'm in a deep meditative state, I'll start to think of a memory, something that actually happened in the past. And I'll think about how that memory feels. I'll kind of sit back as the witness, and I'll become aware, and I'll kind of just watch how my mind goes back in time to an event, and how it brings up certain images and feelings and emotions and all that stuff. And so this is what I'll do at first. I'll take a literal past memory, something that happened yesterday or a week ago or a year ago, and I'll just kind of watch how I analyze, how I witness that past event, that memory. And then what I'll do is I'll take whatever it is I'm wanting to experience in the future, a desire, and I will view that as if it's a memory, as if it's something that happened in the past. And what's really interesting is when I start to think about the thing that actually happened, the actual memory, and then I start to kind of compare it to this future desire that I'm visualizing as if it was something that already happened, and I'm treating it as a memory. It's really hard to tell the difference between the two, because even with past memories, we don't have all the details, and a lot of the images, a lot of the feelings that start to arise when we start to think about this memory aren't. It's kind of like broken up into different scenes, and there's holes in the story, and it's just, sometimes it can be foggy. And so it's not like we can go back and like see exactly how everything happened, like we would, watch a movie of it like it was recorded, right? And so the same thing happens when you start using a future desire and you start, treating that as a past memory. It's kind of the same thing in a way. It feels the same, especially when you're in this theta brainwave state. And so I start treating it as a past event, a memory, something that happened yesterday, something that's already done. And I start to feel what it would feel like for that thing to be a past event, and then what it would feel like to be experiencing it right now. And so what I do is I feel the feeling of the memory of it already occurring in the past. And then I bring it into the present moment. And that is when feeling is something that Neville Goddard wrote that book, Feeling is the Secret. It's one of my favorite books. And in this book, this is what he talks about. What you're doing here is you're going from envisioning it to embodying the state of being, embodying the feeling of whatever it is you're desiring. And so you do this after you see it, after you visualize it as a past memory. You feel it in the present moment. And when you're in theta and your subconscious mind is experiencing this, the subconscious mind cannot tell the difference between reality, something that actually happened, and something that hasn't happened. And so when you're just feeling it, the subconscious mind starts to program itself, and it takes that in as something that's actually occurring. And that is when the process of the subconscious mind accepting that feeling and turning it into a external reality begins. A manifestation and three-dimensional reality. That's when that process starts. When you're in theta, you're visualizing it as a past memory. You're feeling as if it's already done. You're embodying the state of being. And you're really, during this time, again, this is a hypnotic state. So you're really getting into this place of feeling with all your five senses of what it would feel like as if this thing was right here, right now. And the subconscious mind does not know the difference. And this is the key to that process of the desire turning into an external manifestation. And so this is step 3. You are envisioning your desires as past memories while you're in theta. And, really what you're doing here is you're tricking the brain. Again, the subconscious mind cannot tell the difference. And so you're tricking the brain into believing that this is already done and you're even experiencing it right now. And as a result, it will manifest as we go along. I'm going to explain these next 2 steps, but this is part of the process. This is the key. This is probably the most important part. The next step is step 4. And I kind of already said this towards the end of step 3. So step 3 is actually envision as if it's a past memory, something that's already happened. Step 4 is feel it. Feel it as if it's already done. And so that's step 4. I've just talked about that for the past few minutes. So, step 4, you're feeling as if it's already done. This happens while you're still in theta. And step 5 is where you start to embody gratitude. And this is where you actually transcend time. This is when the miracles happen, because at this point, once you've envisioned it as a past memory, you felt it in the present moment with all your 5 senses, and you're reprogramming your subconscious mind. When you start to feel gratitude, what you're then telling your subconscious, what you're then telling the universe is, I've received it. And this is something that Jesus actually said in Mark 11:24, I believe. Yeah, Mark 11:24. He said, whenever you pray for something, whenever you ask for something in prayer, believe you already have it, believe you have received it, and then it will be yours. And so this is the law of assumption. When we start to be thankful for something that we haven't even experienced yet, especially while we're in this deeper meditative state, when we're in theta, then what that is doing when we're embodying gratitude and thankfulness is that is sealing the deal. This is one of the most important elements of this process. And this is something that I have found that when I am in theta, whether it's through meditation or whether it's right before I'm falling asleep, because that's the other thing, we actually enter into the theta brainwave state for a few minutes as we're falling asleep and as we're waking up. But something that I started doing right before I'd fall asleep while I was in theta, and I knew I was in theta, and I knew it was only for a few minutes, so I wanted to take advantage of this window for reprogramming my subconscious mind and for feeling the desires as if they were already done during this little time period. And so one of the things I started doing as I was falling asleep was I simply started to pray this prayer of gratitude, of thankfulness. And so whatever it was that I was wanting to experience, I would just simply say, thank you for this, whatever it was. Thank you that it's already done. Thank you that it's a done deal. Thank you that it's all taken care of. And I would just say that kind of to myself as I was drifting into sleep right before I was completely sleeping, while I was in Theta, in that little window while I was still kind of awake, but my body was asleep. I would just start to say that, within myself. And that's the last thing I would say before I would fall asleep. And what this is doing, like I said, is you're telling the universe, you're telling God, it's signaling the quantum field that it's already done, and now you're transcending time because you're living from the end, you're embodying that state of gratitude. And in life, you don't attract what you want, you attract what you are being. And so that is what the universe is going to start reflecting back to you, your state of being. And so when you're having that state of being of gratitude, that's it. That is the ultimate. And so when this happens, you're, like I said, you're transcending time because you're living in the present moment, in the eternal now. And the thing about time is this: time in this linear function like we think of, and what we use here in this three-dimensional reality, doesn't actually exist. Time in the linear function is simply a mental construct that we use here on Earth. We need it while we're in this 3D realm, but ultimately it is not ultimate reality. Time is relative, it's not absolute. And the past and the future are simply things that, like I said, this linear function of time is what we use. It's how we navigate life here on Earth. But the past doesn't actually exist, because if you think about the past is simply a thought or a memory that's occurring in the now. And then the same thing with the future. The future doesn't actually exist. The future is just a thought or an anticipation or an expectation that's occurring in the now. You can't go back into the past. You can't go back into yesterday and fix something, or talk to someone or do something that you forgot to do. Why? Because it doesn't exist. You can only be right here, right now, because the now, the present moment, the eternal now, is all that actually exists. And so a memory is something that's occurring in the now. An expectation, something that you're wanting to happen, some kind of future anticipation, it's only in the now. By the time you get to that future point, whether it's tomorrow or a year from now, when you get to that point, it will be the now. And so all things are happening simultaneously in the eternal now, in this one eternal moment. And so when you realize that, and you're in Theta, and you're in this deep meditative state, what's happening is you're realizing at this point that, and this is something I kind of forgot to mention early on, but when you're in meditation long enough, you start to transcend not just time and space, but you transcend the identification as a separate self, as the ego. And you realize that you are beyond the body, beyond the mind, beyond space, and beyond time. And your true self is pure consciousness, and it's infinite. And when you experience yourself as pure consciousness, what happens is you realize you are one with God. And this is something I've talked about in previous videos. And when you realize you're one with God, you realize that, like I said, the kingdom of heaven is within you and it's outside of you, as Jesus says in the Gospel of Thomas, but it starts by going within. Once you go within, then you can experience it all around you. But in this state of oneness, in this state of pure consciousness, this is when you can really start to create your own reality and manifest your desires, because you're transcending time and you're embodying gratitude, and you're feeling as if whatever it is you're wanting to experience in the future is something that's already happening in the now. And the reason this is so powerful is because you realize that you're not even, I know I just said you're creating your own reality and you're manifesting this, that, and the other, but in reality, you're not, because you're not really creating anything, because you're realizing that the entire kingdom of heaven is within you. This is a reality within you. And so everything that you could ever want, dream for, ask for, believe for, or desire is already within you. The things that you're wanting to manifest, they're not out there somewhere. They're not external. They are within you. And as you become one with those things, which is happening at this deep meditative state, when you're experiencing oneness with God, unity consciousness, one with everything, pure consciousness, when you're in the state beyond the ego, beyond the illusion of separation, and you become one with the things that you're desiring, and you realize that everything you've been seeking externally is already a present reality within you, within the kingdom of heaven, then you're not so much creating these things, you're just manifesting them into your external world. And so although you're not experiencing these things in your external world, what you're doing in this deep state of meditation, by feeling as if it's already done, and then embodying gratitude where you transcend time, is you're taking that desire that's already within you of whatever it is you're wanting to experience, and you're transforming that into a manifestation in third dimensional reality. That's how it happens. That's the process. We're transformed from the inside out. And as we trick the brain, as we trick the subconscious mind into believing that this is something that we're experiencing, that is a present reality, then that is what is going to start being reflected. Because remember, the universe is a mirror. And what we are experiencing in our external world is just a projection of the subconscious mind, of our deepest beliefs. And this is the process of it. This is how it happens. But when we're in our heart space, when we're in Theta, when we're in this deep meditative state, and we start to experience the oneness, the bliss that I've talked about in other meditation videos, this is the time to not only feel the gratitude, but also to start to let go. Because by letting go, detaching from the outcome, this is when we are trusting in the universe, we're trusting in God, and this is the ultimate signal to the quantum field that we fully believe that it's done, and that it's going to start manifesting in our outer world. And then it happens. It has to happen. It has to manifest in third dimensional reality once we've reprogrammed the subconscious mind, once we have felt as if it's already done, and now we're embodying gratitude, because again, we're transcending time, we're living from the end, and this is the signal, and it will happen, it will come to pass, because again, it's a present reality, it already exists within you. You're just taking that and you're transforming it into something that you're experiencing outside of yourself, but it's always been within you. Again, you're not getting it from out there somewhere. You're not creating it, because the kingdom of heaven is inherently within you. Anything you could ever want has always been within this kingdom. And what you're doing is you're bringing it from within into the external, into the third dimension. And we have the power to do this. We have the power within ourselves to manifest our desires and to experience the fulfillment of our dreams in our lives. And this is how it happens, through meditation. Meditation is simply removing the veil, the illusion of separation that keeps us stuck in separation consciousness, that keeps us stuck in the ego. When we're living in separation consciousness, when we're living from the ego, when we're living from the analytical thinking mind all the time, then what happens is we are programming the subconscious mind to believe that the things that we want to desire are the things that we want to experience are far out and external and way out there and futuristic and separate from us. And so if that's what the subconscious mind believes, then it's going to take a lot longer, and it's going to be really hard to ever manifest our desires, because they're separate from us, they're way out there, and we're going to try to do all this extra work externally to make it happen, and it's going to be very challenging, and it's going to cause us to become tired and worn out. But What I'm telling you is that you can actually go within yourself and realize that time doesn't actually exist as we know it, as we believe it to be in this linear function. You can transcend time, live from the end, live from the eternal now, and become one with whatever it is you're wanting to desire, because it's already within you. And as you go from separation consciousness to unity consciousness, and you start embodying that state of being as if it's already done, then what happens? The universe is a mirror. This is the mirror principle. It's going to start to reflect that in your external world, because you're becoming one with those things, and you're realizing that separation is an illusion, and everything you could ever want, dream for, ask for, or believe for already exists within you. The kingdom of heaven is inherently within you. So if you found this video helpful, informative, or insightful, please leave a thumbs up at the bottom of the screen, and be sure to subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. Also, if you're interested in supporting this channel, the best way to do so is through my Patreon. And I'll put information for my Patreon in the description below. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.